Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We're just gonna wait until the top of the hour and wait until everyone's. We have a lot of people signing up today, so we can see people flooding in at the moment. So we'll wait until the numbers level out and then we'll get started. But yeah, I'm joining you from London, England today. Ben, how about you? Where are you based?
Hi, everybody. I'm based in Israel, right outside of Jerusalem.
Cool. Great to have you, Ben. And Eric?
Thank you.
I'm in Florida in the United States. So we got quite a global community here. So curious to hear where the folks jumping in, listening will be listening in from.
Yeah, let us know in the comments where you're dialing in from today. Love to say hi. Cool. We're at the top of the hour. I can see a few more people coming in. Hello, if you're just joining us. I'll go and get started and give everyone a brief introduction to what we're going to be speaking about today, just while people are still coming in. But yeah, we're here to talk about Salesforce RevOps, build, buy, or a magic middle ground. So, I mean, RevOps kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere, really. You know, a few years ago, it was the new trending topic. But RevOps is vital to any Salesforce Sales Cloud implementation because it's all about the processes and tools that ultimately affect the revenue operations and can have a massive effect on the company's bottom line, on revenue generated, and many other core KPIs to a company. So yeah, we're going to be speaking about tools and whether to build, buy, or if there is a magic middle ground. So let's get started. So just to introduce myself, my name is Ben McCarthy. I'm the founder of Salesforce Ben, and today we are partnering with Titan to bring you this webinar. And we're lucky enough to have Eric on the call with us. Eric, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So, for those who don't know me, my name's Eric. I'm the Vice President of Revenue Operations and Digital Transformation over at Lens Financial. We are a mortgage lender here in the United States. I've been in the ecosystem for about 14, 15 years. It hurts every time I have to say that. I feel like a dinosaur at this point. But my past roles have been Senior Director of CRM for a global HR tech company. I've done quite a lot on the consulting side as well. So I got a chance to experience kind of like all sides of the Salesforce ecosystem before I graduated into RevOps.
Thanks, Eric, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ben Miller, and I am a enterprise account executive here at Titan. We are a Salesforce ISV on the App Exchange since 2017, and I've been with the team since 2020, working with customers of all shapes and sizes and partners to really be able to help extend people's Salesforce orgs. And yeah, let's jump right in. So just a little bit about today's webinar. So it's really exciting. We're bringing you this webinar, which is Salesforce Ben on Salesforce RevOps, build, buy, or a magic middle ground. So we have a really great discussion planned for you today and look forward to hearing feedback from all of you based on your experience in the field. So here's a little bit of what you can expect from today's session. First, my co-host Eric will be giving us a brief introduction to RevOps and Salesforce, drawing on his own experience. After that, we're going to be discussing the two methods for creating new solutions for RevOps within your Salesforce org. So these two options are either building something from scratch or using a purchase solution from an ISV or some other type of third party. And after laying out the cases for both, we're going to go through some of the steps you should take to decide which modus operandi is really the best for you. And I think we're going to probably find out that each company is a little bit different, and we're excited to hear from you kind of where you stand on this. After that, I'm going to be showing you one of the many ways that we at Titan have actually delivered solutions that allow you to accelerate deals and interact more efficiently with your customers. And of course, we're going to make sure to leave time for questions at the end, but feel free to ask whatever you'd like in the Q&A throughout the session, and we will do our best to address it. And at this point, it's time to get in the driver's seat and navigate to a new stream of revenue consciousness. So let's jump right in. Thanks for joining, everybody.
All right. So I want to start was when we talk about intro to RevOps, I want to start by having everyone here imagine $500 million being handed to them right now. And with this $500 million, I'm asking you to build the fastest race car that you could possibly put together. You know, we talk about Formula One. Give me that race-winning Formula One car. I want to have it absolutely. If we're talking about Salesforce, it's $500 million to build your ideal Salesforce. Now, imagine that you go through the whole implementation process and you build that system out and all of these things, and you build this car, right, that we're talking about that's as fast as you can make it. And as you go live, you realize that the car was going to be raced in dirt roads. This fine-tuned piece of machinery with all the aerodynamic capabilities and everything that's designed for smooth paved surfaces is actually going to be driven in bumpy dirt roads. You're not going to, all of that money invested is not going to get you very far. Salesforce is no different. So one of the key things with Salesforce is that without aligning the technology, whether it's Salesforce or any other platform really, without aligning it to other things, to a strategy, to a process, the system really runs a risk of not doing the job that it's supposed to, or not making the processes more efficient for an organization. This is where revenue operation comes in. And one of the key things I want to talk about revenue operations is that revenue operations is not sales ops. A lot of times people tend to think that revenue operations is like, oh yeah, no, it's just sales operations, another word. It's revenue, sales, it's all the same thing. It absolutely isn't. Sales operations is dedicated to help sales excel. Revenue operations, in turn, looks at the entire organization from an entire customer lifecycle journey, and we're looking at how are we doing in marketing operations? How are we doing in sales operations? How are we doing in customer success operations? And in some cases, even the customer service operations. How is everything working together? And can we string that along to be able to make this work? The 4 key pillars to make this work is strategy, working with the executive leaders from all of these different marketing ops, from marketing, from sales, from customer success, customer care, all leadership to be able to align the strategies together and help formulate them in a way that can be supported well. It's about enablement. It's about making sure that folks have the ability to use what's out there, making sure that there is a roadmap to success to train not only the processes, the technology, but also the people, right, that are running these things. It's very analytical. You want to make sure that you want to be able to set the right analytics, review the data, understand it, and ultimately the technology, which is what we're talking about today with Salesforce. And we're going to talk about this build versus buy conundrum and having to understand, you know, should we build, should we buy, what makes the most sense? But ultimately, RevOps, in most scenarios, and typically in I'll say smaller organizations, but I'll say like under 500 or maybe under 1,000 employees, typically business systems such as, you know, like your CRM, your marketing automation tool, all of these other platforms that you have typically report on the business side or report under revenue operations or under some of the business departments in general. Larger organizations, you may see that it can actually go over and switch over to IT. But in RevOps, working with technology is one of the crucial pieces that you do. And I like to say that revenue operations is the tip of the spear when it comes to technology, because just as revenue operations is helping streamline the processes and the customer journey as a whole to make sure a customer has a fantastic experience from the time that it goes from marketing to working with sales or a business development team, working with sales, working with customer success, customer care. It's crucial that revenue operations is helping fight for the budgets for the technology, to have the right technology in place to support the organization and deliver on an exceptional customer journey. And that's a lot of what we do here at Lens with revenue operations. So one of the key things that I like to talk about, though, when it comes to companies is the culture. So every company has a different culture. And, you know, back when I used to be more involved in cars, someone told me this once, and this carried over with me in all of my Salesforce consulting days. They made the statement, you know, you can have good, fast, and cheap. Pick 2. And it's a powerful thing because you can always pick one, you can pick the second one, but always at the expense of the third one. You can have cheap and good, but it won't be fast. You can have cheap and fast, but it won't be good. And you can have fast and good, but it won't be cheap. And a lot of companies tend to have different personalities and different cultures. So at my last company, definitely very different culture that at where I'm currently at with Lens. Lens, we're small, growing organization, growing very fast. We like to keep that speed up. So we pick a lane in how we go about it. And that understanding where you sit in that tech culture will help you understand whether you're more of a build versus buy. And if you're trying to, let's say, for example, if you're on one side, be it on the build side, and you want to make an investment on something that's more of a buy category, you're going to run into issues maybe with the culture of the organization. And that's just something that you have to be prepared for. So those are some of the key things. Now, there are cases for both build versus buy. And if you're looking at these, build usually sits more on the cheaper side of things, right? Because when you're looking at all of these fantastic tools that you have, be it on the App Exchange or these extra add-ons that really helps you go to market faster because the platform is already there. Typically, you just have to do an initial setup, an initial implementation, and often you're up and running very quickly. Whereas anyone that's been on a build phase, if you're going to try to rebuild everything from scratch, you may take a really long time to be able to put that together, properly QA it, properly put all the tests and all the things in place, all the functionality that you want, the customization that you want. So those are some of the considerations that you have to have when you're putting build in place, that timelines may be pushed back. And a company that knows that they are a build organization, that was something that we, at my last role, we were very clear. We said, hey, if we want to be a build organization in these things, that's fine. But now, if you're going to tell me what the requirements are, then I can tell you the timeline that we have to deliver this based on the resources that are available and the functionality that you're requesting. So those are some of the things that you have to take into the consideration when you're looking right into understanding what type of company you're in. And I think we have a survey so that way you guys can probably share with us. I'm curious to see, if folks are more on the build versus buy type of culture. But those would be one of the key things that you have to consider where you're at. And when you're going to bring in certain recommendations, be it for some new solutions, for some new designs, those are some of the key things that you have to keep in mind. Like, hey, what kind of culture are we in? What are the kind of things that we can promote? If we're going to make a jump outside of this or do something opposite to the typical culture, what are some of the considerations that we need to take in place? And what are some of the arguments that we need to be able to win over, right, the right stakeholders to be able to execute that, right? Not only sell the benefits of, a particular feature, but also be able to say, here's why we need to consider perhaps going outside of our norm to be able to execute on this. So those are some of the key things that, especially in the revenue operations side, as we're working with multiple stakeholders from different sides, this is one of the key things that we keep in mind, right, to be able to unite everyone, right? It's really being able to put ourselves in their shoes and make that sales pitch. Now, we have build versus buy, right? So there are pros and cons to both. There's no one solution here that I can tell you to say, oh yeah, here's the better one. There's no, ultimate winner. Like we were saying, you have your cheap, fast, and good. Pick two at the expense of the third one. So we're going to dive in a little bit and we're going to look at the cases for when is build ideal and when is buy, a potentially better solution. So if we look at the case for build here, one of the key pros that you have that a lot of companies, especially anyone that's had to work with IT departments, they'll immediately say, oh, it's extra security. We control the data, we control the code, it's all within our house. It's, it's that whole mentality of like, no, we control it all, right? And I remember once someone said that, the CEO of a company called Salesforce a pier, not a bridge, because if we decide to move out of Salesforce, then we're suddenly all screwed and we have to start from scratch. It's that whole thing, like we want to own it all, like our IT team needs to own it all. And to some extent, it's true. At times, if you need the extra security, considering building something, whether it's a functionality on top of Salesforce or whatever the case may be, there could be a very valid use case where you don't have to go through perhaps a whole procurement process to understand what kind of security methods are in place from the vendor perspective. It's you know, you don't have to depend on what the vendor does in terms to protect the data. The sometimes the transformation and the communication of data in between systems, right? If you're running an integration between your CRM and the vendor's tool, all of these things are something that you might have to keep in mind that you can just alleviate yourself if you're building all natively within your own databases. So that's, and then ultimately you kind of get to a point where you get also cheap as a potential option, because once you build it, you're using resources you're already paying for, you're using the employees within your organization, and typically you can make the argument that this is a cheap option because once you sign up with a third-party vendor, you have subscription fees you're going to have to pay, and as you have more users, that cost increases as opposed to just having a one-time thing and we're done, right? So you may pay a little bit more in terms of resources at the front end if you use an implementation partner to build a completely custom solution. You can think that you're going to, you know, pay once and then you'll be done. So ultimately, it kind of becomes a really good option, especially if scalability isn't required. So for example, let's talk about like, I don't know, like some commission calculator. If you have a commission system that's very basic and very repetitive in your organization, it's a very basic formula. It's not something that's very complicated. You can probably build that functionality out. You don't have to scale. You don't have a lot of exceptions. The more and more I grow in the RevOps world, I'm feel like the less and less these companies exist because I feel like there's always a VP sales VP with exceptions for everything. But ultimately, if scalability isn't required, then going, you know, on a build is a big pro. Some of the cons, and anyone here that's passionate about building flows as I am can certainly relate to this. You can go down a rabbit hole of endless maintenance and support. Like this is one of the biggest unknowns, that when you're jumping in on things, you're putting some basic requirements together, you're looking at this, but like, no, this will be simple. And once you start implementing it, you start discovering more things and you're like, oh my goodness. And at that point, you're already like 3/4 of the way in and you're like, there's no going back. And I have to keep committing and more time and more resources. And what is everything else that I'm having to consider putting to the side or delay in my roadmap because we have to stay committed to make sure to see these things through. It's not that it happens always, but it can happen. And when it does, it usually comes and bites you really badly. And I speak from personal experience, not from a friend. But I've definitely been through a lot of scenarios where we thought it was going to be something simple. And as we start kind of going through iterations, demoing to folks, it just starts coming out that you have all of these extra requirements or extra things that are thought of along the way, right? That just that can just really slow down. Right. So typically, when you're looking at a build culture within an organization, speed is not the one thing that comes to mind. Right. So which kind of switches over to the next option, which now we're talking about buy. And we can go into some of the pros and cons for buying. So if speed is not the you know, speed is one of the cons of building, then that's where the tables have turned right now in buy. Because when you're buying, speed is one of the greatest assets that you have. You can go to market far faster, typically speaking. The more complex the functionality, usually the faster you can go to market when you're comparing that to a build culture to try to do the same exact thing on a build. It's usually far more scalable. So you have to have that consideration of, you know, like maybe you're signing up for a tool and you need 60 or 70% of what it offers. But if halfway through the process you realize that you need a little bit more or you need some other things, guess what? Oftentimes the vendor's already thought of it because it's building a tool that's not only specific to you, but flexible enough to scale with hundreds, if not thousands of companies out there and customers out there. So it does give you a lot of options in terms of being able to scale. So those are some of the key things that you have that become really powerful, because when it comes to RevOps, go-to-market speeds is crucial. How fast can we get this? How fast can we start, put our team on this? How fast can we just start implementing this and hit the ground running? That's one of the key things that, Build will often afford you, right? And it gives you a lot more flexibility, typically speaking, from being able to make changes on the fly, right? And being able to add on extra functionality quickly. Now, the drawback, right, because again, pros and cons to both sides, is that you get limited customization. So where in Build, you can go 100% of the way of how you're looking to do things, often in Buy, you may only be able to get to 70 or 80%. So those are some of the things that you have to evaluate. The one big thing that you can make a webinar out of its own that I'll share with folks in my personal experience is that every company seems to think that they are unique in the world. And they're like, no, 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 it has to be exactly the way we have. And from my Salesforce implementation days, I can tell you I've done implementations for over 100 companies, large and small, like from 10 users to thousands of users. And in the majority of the cases, I've walked out of there and been like, we could have just used so much stuff out of the box instead of having to re-engineer for these, insanities. But a lot of times the companies wouldn't have flexibility in their processes and say, no, this is our process. This is the way it must be. The system must adhere to our processes. And that's one of the key things about revenue operations. It's just not, it's not about, everything needs to fit a process. It's how do we as an organization make sure that there's a balance between the technology that can be offered and the processes that we have, right? Because if your processes are not constantly being reevaluated every now and then and seeing if there's a better way of doing things, you get stuck in this old way of doing things, and you're trying to drag everything else along with you, be it your platforms and everything else that gets tied and supported to those things. So yes, in some cases, I would definitely agree. There is a case for Build because you need that unique level of customization. But in my experience, 14, 15 years into this, very rarely have I seen it that I'm like, yeah, that's justified. Like that's genuinely justified that you needed a full custom solution because there wasn't a vendor out there that was able to do it. And that was after they evaluated vendors, right? To be able to give Buy a chance to say, yeah, we're going to have to go to Build for this. So those are, some of the key things that you have to keep in mind there. Now, it's, well, the final thing here that I was looking at, you're going to have basically also, when you're buying, there's extra things that you have to consider as well. So you have to make sure that it all fits into a tech stack that you're working with, right? So ultimately, right, we talk about the customer 360 platform and being able to have something. You have to make sure that your vendors are a good fit for not only your CRM, but everything else that may be tied into it. So if you're trying to get analytics, if you have a third-party analytics tool that you want to be able to leverage for some reportings or some things, or a marketing automation tool. So those are some of the key things that you have to take into consideration. Now, this kind of opens the big door to some of the conversations with regards to, do you have to be on one side versus the other? And am I stuck and doomed forever to the side that we choose as a company, as a culture? And the answer to that is no, right? So I think that one of the key things, especially with technology nowadays, is that technology is kind of blurring the lines of what is Build versus Buy. And it's opening a lot more doors for organizations to experience the other side and make a case for the other side without causing too much trouble, right? So we talk a little bit about, this right choice for you, and you can start looking into situations that you have whenever there's new requests, new items that people want to bring into the roadmap, to be able to see, right, and make that assessment for yourself to say, hey, we have typically been a company that's always done Build. Like especially right now, economy, a lot of companies have kind of swung the pendulum to Build, right? Because we want to be careful with what we spend our money on. So the idea to find the right solution, you have to take culture into consideration as one of the big things. First and foremost, you have to know where you're at. So if a company's big on build, or especially right now, they may be big on build, you really have to understand that you're there and to start building on that and be able to start making a case to say, hey, here's where we can make a genuine consideration for buy. Those are typical things that you have to, put in like an ROI, or like a business case presentation that you're working with other stakeholders. If you want to win other stakeholders in other departments to say, yeah, I support this with you, to be able to make like a consensus of let's go with buy. Those are some of the key things that you have to be able to put together and be able to put a number. What's our opportunity cost? Like, how much are we giving up in resources, right? That other projects we won't be able to tackle because we're all going to be hampered by putting this. If this is a massive project, right, we're going to talk a little bit about Titan's deal room. Like, just the thought of building a deal room. Like, I can geek out and say I can go on an experience cloud and I can build this, like screen flows with all of these things. But just the thought of everything else I have to put to the side, right, from myself and my team to be able to build this from scratch, as opposed to going there, I can go and I say, hey, Mr. VP of Sales, that other extra XYZ functionality, that extra commission calculator, or that extra, opportunity automation that you wanted to do? Well, is that more important than this, than this deal room that you're asking for? Because if I have to build this deal room from scratch, we're probably going to have to push all of that 3, 6 months back. You tell me what you want to do, right? What's that worth to you? Is there a dollar amount that we can say that we're losing as a team by not having that live, right? As soon as we can. So those are some of the things that you have to make into consideration. Equally on the buy side, right? If you're a very buy company, is there a point that you can say, no, you know what, this is simple enough that it may not justify, right, for us to go this entire extra step. So understanding where you're at and being able to gain the other stakeholders, and be able to convince them to kind of join your side. Those are some of the key things that you do. And this is where a lot of putting these business cases and these presentations, be able to talk the talk, right? To be able to genuinely have them genuinely convince them that, hey, making a switch may be a good thing in this case. The second key
Eric,
piece, go for it.
Eric, yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that the way that you lay things out, really starting with culture, is so important. And oftentimes, as employees of these organizations that maybe have a culture, maybe we've only been there for so many years, we've been on the IT side or the Salesforce side, and we're kind of living within the Salesforce system. There's a bunch of key factors, like you're mentioning, that really do relate to culture, but also to roadmap, right, and to commitment. So one of the issues sometimes with, one of the I would say the main cons for a lot of organizations with going with a buy solution is responsibility. All of a sudden, we're going to give a part of our org, the responsibility to someone else. But then the question also becomes, hey, how committed are we to Salesforce, right? Are we an organization that's really committed to Salesforce? If I'm working in Salesforce, is my IT always coming and saying, hey, and like Salesforce is a burden for them, or is it something that's actually allowing them to really grow as an organization? Because if it is, well, then we've already given a lot of our responsibility to Salesforce to run so much of our business. So to then have a solution within Salesforce, that's part of Salesforce that is working alongside Salesforce day and night to bring solutions to Salesforce customers, it already starts to sound a little bit easier. And with that, going back to culture, one of the things you mentioned is budget, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that I've encountered as someone being part of an ISV for a number of years now is budgets can come from all different places, right? And sometimes one of our challenges, right, of being in the position of working within Salesforce is, okay, so I've got a, X budget for implementation and for development and for projects, but I've got a different budget for recurring revenue solutions, right? SaaS solutions. And this year we're deciding, hey, we're cutting back on some of those solutions, and we actually want to, put more into implementation. So there's sometimes an imbalance. And I think for, going back to that thing of culture, what's the culture of your company in terms of how they want to allocate money towards these type of solutions? If it's all going to be on the implementation side, well, great. This year we might be able to push this project. But again, let's go back to the roadmap. What's going to happen
Mhm.
next year when we want to now expand things from, whatever we're doing in 2024 to 2026? And is that
Mm-hmm.
solution that we just built out in 2024 that we put all this implementation money, which we had a big budget for, are we going to be able to then still support that solution into 2025, 2026 to continue it? And I think we've both seen in our personal experience that things change, right? So
Nope.
culture also is roadmap and how much you're going to stick with the roadmap.
There's an anecdote that I want to share because my last day at my last job, my boss, it was the afternoon already, like I was basically, just final things.
You had the
And
box
my
on your desk.
I had the box on my desk and my boss, he comes to me, he's like, Eric, help me understand something. Like, let's jump on the call. He's like, Eric, help me understand. You started the company, like you were with us for a year and a half. You had one person on your team, like company cut budgets, like tighten everything, just like most companies and everything. He's like, help me understand to my boss, how do you have 7 people reporting to you? And it was the whole thing about budgets because over the years, I was just going to different departments, and just saying, hey, how can we help you out? How can we build things? And, tapping onto budgets from other folks to be able to say, hey, I think I can bring some efficiencies to your team, right? Oh, you're about to pay this much money for this company to be able to do this. We can maybe have a custom solution in Salesforce, right? That can support that, or there's a couple of applications that we can do. A lot of times folks have budgets for certain things. You can get creative and you can find certain things. So because the budgets have been cut or restricted, but the goals still seem to be very much like the on track or increasing for every quarter. So there's definitely room for creativity and to be able to make your business case. I think ultimately that kind of comes back with working with different stakeholders, gaining, like understanding what's important to them, and leveraging what you bring to the table as a technology expert to be able to say, here's how I can help you deliver on your goals, right? And in a more efficient way, and make your case for certain things like that. So
I think that's exactly correct. And I would say to everyone listening today, and for all the Salesforce professionals out there that maybe will listen to this in the future, when you're trying to solve a problem, make sure that you're in touch with the people that you're solving it for, right? And I think that's exactly the story that you just told, which was that you were finding other people's problems but they're actual people, they're actually people in the organization. Maybe they're people you don't report to, but hey, there's value that you can bring to them, and that's RevOps in a lot of ways, bringing those different parts together
mhm.
and being able to hold it within one system to streamline, to make things more efficient, and just not getting stuck in, hey, what does this use case do for this one user, but how does it trickle down? What does it do? And that's really, I would say, a very important part of how we decide whether we should build something or buy something.
Yeah. And I think this kind of bigs or sets up a good segue because one of the key things as well is if you're looking for an opportunity to be able to bring, like an add-on tool or like a no-code tool, there are always scenarios where there are tools that can make a big impact, but don't necessarily make a massive change to your internal processes. And we were talking about this the whole time and everything. And the Titan deal room is one of the great scenarios where oftentimes a deal room is just something that sits on top of an existing process, right? So it could be something that you have to, like if you have to re-engineer entirely how an opportunity works, that's very impactful. You have to retrain a lot of folks. You have to change a lot of configurations, probably assess all the tech debt that you've ignored for the past 20 years because you haven't had the time to do it. But if you're looking for something somewhere to get started, like something like Titan Deal Room is a great example, and I know that you're going to talk a little bit about today in kind of like the benefits that are added, right, by using no code tools and kind of like that fast and good category of right of the buy side.
Yeah, and I think that's a great introduction to, what I'd like to present today. And just a few words about, Titan. The idea with Titan is that we have a platform that sits on top of Salesforce. It's integrated via REST API. So just like Eric just said, you've got your processes in Salesforce. We're not coming in here to, disrupt those processes, rather extend them, have them reach other people. And the metaphor or the comparison I'd like to use is just like, when Flow first came out, and it was like, hey, we want you to use this seemingly more simple tool to be able to do more than what you've been able to do until now. it's a little bit hard case to make, right? We're going to now simplify the tool, but we're going to be able to do more. What does exactly that mean? And that's one of the things that we, really do here at Titan, which is we give you the ability to extend Salesforce, but also to really go ahead and enhance the way that you're interacting with people outside the org. So we're going to start here. It's a really short presentation. We're in an opportunity. Everyone here is familiar with what we're looking at, of course. And what you could see here is a regular opportunity, not some customization here. I mean, we've got our own kind of CPQ built in here where we're, seeing a description of what's in the quote. We've got here some custom objects. We've got here a survey object. We've got here a Titan signed document object. And we've got contact roles with multiple people who can be, you know, uh, brought into this opportunity. And what I'm going to do here is something really simple. I'm going to go ahead and click generate quote. Okay. And what's happening in the background is I now can go ahead and send out a quote from Titan, and it's going to pull into this, this right here who the opportunity contact email is and who also is involved in this renewal. And this is one of the things that we've done here at Titan to increase the velocity with which we can actually renew our customers and communicate with them. So rather than emailing them a PDF and saying, how does the renewal look? Do you agree to everything? We're doing it this way, and it can be completely automated. So I go ahead, I click generate quote, and as you can see, Salesforce now has moved the stage of this opportunity to quote invoice sent. I'm jumping over to my email. I got an email right here. And this is actually using one part of Titan, which is bringing in all of this data, the account name, the renewal amount, the renewal date. And I could really easily say, hey, I want to just go sign this as a PDF, right? And that's going to just open up a document ready for me to sign. Maybe I've already talked to my rep. So I know, hey, we're just going to get that. Let's look at it. Great. Everything looks good here. Let's sign it. It's going to push back to Salesforce. It's going to update the opportunity to, closed, waiting for payment, closed one, whatever it may be. Or I'm going to come in here and say, you know what, let's take a look at this quote because we didn't have a chance to renew it, review it yet with a person from the organization, and let's sign in. So what you're seeing here is basically Titan is giving you the ability to authenticate a user into this interface. All right. So this person right now is a contact or a lead or an account. They could be whoever you want in Salesforce. In this case, as we saw before, they're actually just a related contact to that opportunity. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go ahead and click continue. It's going to now bring me into a completely interactive web page, which is going to bring in all this information from the opportunity. And there's a bunch of cool things that we could do here. So the first thing is, once it loads, of course, is that we're going to see here, just a little bit of an introduction. We're going to see who our account executive is here. Here we go. So we've got just a little welcome, right? Personalization. And this is a really nice, easy way to do things. It's got a picture of me, of course, because I'm my own customer success manager in this case. And we've got here now also the pricing, right? So it's going to bring in, hey, what does this renewal include? Okay, they give me a discount. Great. This is looking good, but hey, maybe I want to make changes to this offer. And if I do, this can kick me into another screen where I can request changes. Really simple. No emails necessary. Don't even have to pick up a phone. And that's right away going to trigger things in Salesforce to, bring in people to actually get involved with that. Now, we've got here my agreement, and that's just like our terms and conditions. But let's say, last year when we did the, when we signed you up, we had some special terms in there. Well, that's going to be reflected here as well because we're pulling that information dynamically from the opportunity. So again, like Eric was saying, this is an overlay, right? We're not just coming in here and saying, hey, this is a deal room. We're going to change everything you're doing. This is where you work now, right? This is your new thing. Yeah, go for it, Eric.
And Ben, like I'll put my RevOps hat and my goggles here. So first off, from a technological perspective, like I hope everyone watching this can start trying to calculate the amount of hours that it would take you and an IT team to build this together, right? All in one shot. I think the overlay piece is a fantastic piece because again, going back to ease of entry into like a buy scenario if you're a build company. But more importantly, from a RevOps side, I work with all these different stakeholders. Imagine that I can tell marketing, here's a tool that can help gauge the interest that a person has mid-buying cycle, right? From the salesperson, I can give you a lot more insight in how serious they are with the deal by how much they're interacting with this tool, right? I can help you find out where the areas of opportunity are that are falling through the pipeline because of the levels of engagement and all of these things that this tool not only is facilitating, streamlining the processes, making us look like rock stars that because not many other of our competitors may have deal rooms, like all of these different arguments for these different stakeholders to be able to say, and if we want to build all of this, how long is it going to take? Like, how long is it going to set us back to be able to put this together? And all of the other things we're going to have to put this aside to deliver on something like this, even if we hired an implementation company, because afterwards there may be the maintenance and more features that we're going to want to roll out. So, is it worth just turning to them? It's like, is it worth the sign-up price, right? And the ongoing subscription to have a partner that's consistently just going to be delivering more features, that's going to be consistently on top, partnering with us to be able to do this. Like when we were first talking, I really liked the Titan deal room because I think it encapsulates kind of like a great switch over point, right? For or like a great, like kind of like dipping your feet in the water, right? For organizations.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the cool things about Titan Deal Room is that it actually combines a lot of different parts of our platform. And of course, like everything we've done at Titan for the most part, this is something that was, suggested to us, hey, we're using your forms, we're using your document signing. Is there a way we can combine it all into this interactive process where we can collaborate with our customers, with our vendors? And we said, yeah, we can actually build that out and also give you some architecture in Salesforce to be able to do the tracking, right? So one cool thing here is that let's say I want to update my billing address, and I think a lot of you will really appreciate this. If I just say it's 1234 Dove Drive, and I want to keep everything else the same, I click update. Of course, that update is happening now in Salesforce in real time. So if I go back here into my opportunity in Salesforce and I refresh it, we've now got fresh new data in Salesforce, right? Without any sort of interaction that had to take place. Of course, trigger whatever sort of, approvals you want in Salesforce, any sort of review that's important there. That's fine. But now, here I've got my updated address. So as the person's going through, we can really keep things, moving fast. I can come in here and say, okay, you know what? Yep, I'm ready to sign. And we can sign it, we can submit it, we can push it through. And then we're, of course, going to have here, a closed one renewal inside of Salesforce. And that's, really great. Another thing we could do is we can also assign the signature to someone else, right? Maybe the contact changed, right? Now we have a new a procurement process. And I don't want to have to then email Titan back and say, hey, I want to change this. I want to change that. I want to change the role. I want to just assign the signature to somebody else and let's go. Let's keep things moving. And, that's one of the things we could do here with the Titan deal room. And of course, also you get full tracking here as well, right? So we'll have a Titan sign document object where you could see, hey, was it opened, right? And of course, I'm a sales rep. A lot of you are interacting with people like me all the time. I want to know, did they open the document? And we could see that, right here, right now. And we're also even using surveys so we could see, did they log into the document? We have here now already, I've got my signed pro forma invoice. It's already uploaded the files here. It's ready to go. It's attached to the opportunity, but we could also push it to some, whatever external place you're saving your documents. So that's, really a, just a little bit of what we can do with something like the Titan Deal Room. But I'd love to hear in the comments if people have other use cases in mind that could do this. Um, setting reminders, all of that. Obviously, this also works with your flow in Salesforce, right? So it's not like this is something that's just living in Titan now. It's still part of your Salesforce work. We can invoke it from a flow. We can, invoke a flow from Titan. It's really a two-way street. And yeah, excited to hear some of your thoughts. And in the meantime, I will jump back to our presentation.
I see a couple of questions popping in. If you guys have questions in general, RevOps, or anything with Titan, just keep the questions coming so we can start, we can dedicate the time to get them all addressed, on their Q&A here.
So I think we've, laid out a pretty good case for both build and buy. I in the position, as I said, of someone who's been working with Titan for a number of years, I've seen both sides, right? I've seen people evaluate Titan, say, you know what, we're taking this in-house, and then they come back a year later, and they're like, okay, so we spent a lot of money. I'm like, how much? Like, we don't exactly want to tell you. We couldn't get the solution we wanted. We're ready to team up with an organization like yours, which doesn't just provide, a rigid software, but provides a platform that we can build things on, that we can do different things with and get more power out of our org. And then I've seen the other side where people are like, hey, we love using, software vendors. And then they come and they say, you know what, we're just going to build this in-house. And they're very happy with the solution they got because maybe the scope was a lot more limited than they initially thought. And, at the end of the day, that was the more cost-effective solution.
Yeah. Those are great, great points. And even, to build on top of that a little bit more, it's, understand, I think the folks that you're working in and get buy-in, right, for whatever you think. If most of the folks here, we're all here because of Salesforce, right, in some way, shape, or form. We're all tied together more because we're on that technology pillar of things. Just be mindful that, as you're looking to put your technological recommendation in place to be able to say, hey, I really think that this makes more sense for us to look into a buy here, that be ready to speak at it from their perspective and understand what their pain points are to help build that momentum, right? To say, hey, here's why I think we should look at it this way. And sometimes it could even be for the build side. Like, again, I know we seem very high on the buy. But like even in my last organization, at times I've made the argument to say, I think we're overcomplicating this. I see what you guys are doing. I can help staff a person with the dollar amounts you guys were looking to spend that helped us, not only deliver on what you needed on a custom build solution, but also do much more that this company was backlogged on. So ultimately, like you guys, you guys have the capability of making that assessment. Just remember to make a good case to other folks, because typically, you got to get that buy-in from everybody else, right? You got to get everyone in there. So, and that's one of the key things when it comes to, to the RevOps side of things is, tying all the strings together like Spider-Man and like that scene of like holding it all together. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'd like to take some time now for some Q&A. Really appreciate everyone joining us up until this point. And I think Ben, would you like to lead the Q&A here?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, guys. I was hanging on your every word there. Great discussion and super relevant about the times that we're in. And Eric, of course, you got Formula One involved, as you do with most things in your life.
Somehow managed.
All right, a lot of questions coming in. We'll take them in order. So I mean, there's one here just related from the demo from Chrissy Campbell, but she was like, how do you set up the email with both options and how can that be configured?
Yeah, so it's completely up to you. Okay. So really the way that we work with Titan is, in that one, I was just using contact roles, related contacts basically. But in your org, it could be something completely different. So we are not married to any sort of architecture or structure there. We're happy to work with really whatever you want in terms of how we can, you know, choose who those people are. And it can be completely dynamic as well. So, you can choose it to be one person, two people. It could also be based on conditions, right? Certain types of deals, maybe you're going to send it to three people. Other types of deals, maybe, to one person. Um, I did notice that I don't have the link here for the Titan deal room, so I will, while you take the next question, I'll switch to the correct slide here.
Cool. Maybe one for Eric in the meantime. There's one here, I don't know if you can see it, Eric, from Tom Ringer. So they have historically built software, but now we're growing. We're becoming a more vanilla SaaS B2B business, but we're finding buying is much harder due to decisions we have made in the past. How do you ensure that decisions today don't impact the right choice tomorrow?
I think that's a great question. I think a lot of companies struggle to be able to come to terms with that. And it's also not all entirely on their own decisions. It's just that, with now more technology, like the landscape has changed a little bit. So one of the key things is that, like, one, I like the fact that you're hopefully the what you're saying about becoming a more vanilla B2B SaaS company is already a good indication, or is not a negative thing. But ultimately, it's kind of, I've seen so many companies get in that trap of, like, we're exclusively unique. We have our own thing, we have our own secret sauce. Everything must be customized to our own. Whereas you have to understand, like, Salesforce is a CRM, is a platform. It's built to have scalability. It's built to be able to go in many different directions. But organizations that, like, vendors, and be it Titan or marketing automation company or whoever, they're building their connectors and all of their things based on what Salesforce is generally used for or generally used as. So, like, if you create some custom object for opportunities, right, you're going to be getting yourself in trouble, because when you want to plug in some third-party tool that runs analytics on opportunities or whatever the case may be, it may not be as compatible to the custom system that you've built. So I think that companies in the long run, if they want to avoid as a lot of tech debt, is to try to really evaluate their processes and see if there's a way that we can adjust our processes a bit more to the CRM, instead of just grabbing a CRM and saying we'll make out of it what we want and just go wildly custom. I think if they were to follow that that would be a key thing for organizations to have more scalability and a lot less potential tech debt, because tech debt's inevitable, but manage that, mitigate that as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Eric. And sorry, just to bring it back to the question before, Ben. So Christy's just commented. So her original question was, how did you set up the email with both options? Can that be configured? But she was actually referring to signing and the viewing option.
To the signing and the viewing options. So, uh, yeah, of course it can be configured. You don't need to have both options there. It could also be dynamic. You could have different templates for different types of emails that are going out. So maybe you have opportunities that are, new logo as opposed to renewal. And the template could be completely dynamic based on that. So it could be just, review, or, review this live, or sign. Up to you. Everything here is completely flexible. And going back to what I was saying earlier, which how I understood it, um, you know, even the people that it's sent to can be dynamic based on the conditions that you set in Titan based on the Salesforce data.
Nice, great. And how many of your customers, Titan's customers, use the payment option to collect payments? And do you support global payment options?
Sure. Yeah, we have a lot of different payment integrations within Titan. So I would say that a large amount of our customers who are using payment integrations with Titan are using Stripe. Okay, because as probably many people know here, I would say it's one of the easier payment integrations to work with within Salesforce, just in terms of getting tokens and information. So we have that embedded inside of Titan, but also a lot of others. And depending on the jurisdiction that you're in, there's a good chance we might also have your local payment integration, and that's something I'm happy to talk about, with anyone here. And so, yeah, we do have people, using the payment integrations, and it is really native in the forms as you work through those.
Yeah, great. Got a question from Kevin here. Does Titan build flows in Salesforce?
Cool. That's a great question. So, obviously I don't exactly understand what you mean, but what we do is we can be, placed inside of a flow in Salesforce. We also have our own flow builder. So if there's something that maybe your flow in Salesforce doesn't 100% do, like, let's say an external approval process, right? Maybe you don't have the way to get an approval from, your customer within this larger approval process that you have in Salesforce. So you can bring in a Titan flow. But typically the way that our users are using us is they're embedding us within their flows. So that could be file actions, like anyone here who's worked with files and Salesforce flows basically knows it requires Apex. We've actually done a really nice hack to that, where we can actually do file actions within flows without any sort of code. So, you could have a nice complex flow going on, and maybe at some point there's a file involved in there, and you want to convert the file, you want to scan the file, you want to send it to somewhere else. We can do that there as well. And you can also invoke a flow from Titan. So basically, with our managed package, we give you the ability to just put us within your flows.
Nice,
And
amazing.
I can, yeah, and I can add a little piece in there too. So, just like Titan or any other vendor, what you're installing is called the managed package into Salesforce. And there may be some flows that are kind of like, included in the package. If you build a flow on your own, like Ben was talking about, and you incorporate components into your flow from Titan, the rest of your flow continues. The entirety of your flow remains. So long as you're still signed up with that vendor, you still have the licensing for the vendor. When the part of your flow gets there where it calls that part of the vendor, supplied components, that's when you may need to restructure that if you are no longer looking to use the vendor or something like that. So you don't lose that work, but you have to refactor it to work without it if it's ever the case like that.
Yeah, that's a great explanation.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. We've still got a bit of 5 minutes left. If anyone else has any questions, Kevin says perfect. So thank you very much, guys. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. There is another question here. Do you consider using an external Salesforce partner to build something when choosing build or buy?
Yeah, I mean, I can take that one. So that's one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves when we are looking to go into a build. If we, again, we take a lot of things into consideration, but ultimately one of the key things is also the resources that we have in place. Let's for a second just say we look through the build versus buy argument and we decide that we're going to go on a build. So the next thing is, do we have the resources internally? And after we have that functionality built out, do we need resources to maintain it, to keep it going? So it kind of becomes that question of, do we just need one person? Because I'm not going to hire a person and have to lay them off 3 months later because now there's no more work for them to do. In that case, using a vendor, it gives us speed, it gives us the ability to get what we need. And if it's going to be a fairly low maintenance tool, then our team can tackle on from there. So I think ultimately you have to take a lot of consideration into, like the sequence of things and see what's the best use of your dollars here. And it could be a combination of all three. At my last job, we did a multi-million-dollar digital transformation where we implemented Service Cloud and we had an implementation partner to do all the heavy work, all the heavy lifting, and the implementation partner even brought some vendors that we signed up with at the time to be able to support our bring your own telephony systems with Amazon Connect and all of these other things. They even had some packages that they sold themselves that we subscribed for. So we mixed and matched, right? We did a little bit of everything. And then ultimately we decided to do no hires internally because we had enough of a team to be able to support what was going to be left in maintenance, right? And we knew that if there was more build out, we would engage them again as needed. But so it's definitely something you want to take into consideration. You want to ask yourself. Usually it's kind of trying to get an understanding of once we're live, right? Do we still have a lot of work for that resource to follow in? That justifies hiring, or do we just use an implementation partner and be done with it?
Great. Thanks, Lyric. Those are all the questions we've got so far. So it might be a good time to start wrapping up. And if we get any, we can quickly answer them. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone's joining today. I can still see a bunch of people on the call. We've got one more question really quickly. Is it possible to brand the payment experience page?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything's completely brandable. I would say that uh, almost every single one of our customers starts with a blank canvas when they start whatever their project is, whether that's, the most basic lead capture form or event registration, or they're doing, full, experience for, payments or for renewals. They're going to do that. And that's also for within Experience Cloud, right? So if you're a company that's using Experience Cloud already and you're looking to, you know, stick with Experience Cloud, but lower the development costs there and reduce time to market with your Experience Cloud pages, you can actually take everything I showed you today and embed that inside of Experience Cloud as Lightning Web Components with Titan. So it's a really good solution for actually extending Experience Cloud as well. And really, as I said, we're looking to be able to fit into your current Salesforce process and enhance it, right? Not replace things completely. So it's a great question.
Great, love it. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to co-host this webinar alongside Ben and Eric. So Eric, any final words before we sign off?
No, I mean, look, anyone that's interested in learning more about revenue operations as a whole, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to, to guide folks and point them in the right direction. But yeah, super excited about the conversation we had today. I think build versus buy is commonly a very widely discussed topic. So, I was quite enjoyable to be here today. Happy to be here.
Yeah, Eric,
Great.
thank you so much for being here with us, and thanks Ben for hosting this really wonderful webinar, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, guys.